We're back with AFCON 2025 again. Senegal are the new African champions, and we meet to discuss the main talking points of that finals yesterday's Segodi. My name is Afolabi. Mustafa is on the show as well.
Yeah, yesterday we had the celebrating for West Africa, Sub-Sahara Africa. We talked about the prettiness of the game, but now we're going to talk specifically tactics. This is going to be a very focused show. Throughout this tournament, Senegal has been playing sort of passive. That's not bad. They use distributive passing, sideways passing, slow build-up, very little work through the midfield. And I was thinking to myself, when Senegal is playing, the ball does most of the work and the players don't. But against Morocco, and I think you said this, Afolabi, you said if they try to go at Morocco in midfield, it could lead to Morocco counter-pressing or counter-attacking. But Senegal actually dared with a 4-2-2-1 to actually battle Morocco in the midfield with Gueye and Kamara. Those guys, they were actually, I'm not saying that they still play their distributed football at times, especially after the first 20 minutes, when they were frustrating Morocco by keeping the ball away from them. They now went incisively and started caging them in the midfield, disrupting them. If Morocco would take the ball from them, they would take it back, get recoveries. Even Sané, I think Sané had 6 recoveries, which is a lot for a forward. And the way this worked was their 4-2-2-1, which they used a lot. Was it 4-2-2-1 or 4-2-2? 4-2-2-2. We have 4-2-2-2. Yeah, not 4-2-2-1. The 4-2-2-2 created a cage for Morocco in which they couldn't get out. And whenever the ball got to them, you would have Gueye and Kamara coming straight at them with the 2 central defenders, which was very disruptive, and they played aggressive. This is the first time we saw Senegal play aggressive in this tournament. And the reason they played aggressive is because that was the only way they would be able to stop the technical flair of Morocco in the midfield. And it worked beautifully. And if you notice, because of Gueye and Kamara, most of their shots now were coming from the center. And they were even taking shots from outside the box from the center. So, and even, what's his name? Sadio Mane. I always say Manuel Sané. Sadio Mane, even in the last game with Egypt, you're seeing him not playing on the wing. You're seeing him dropping into the midfield and even or attacking from the center and causing plays, just like the interception he made, which was from the center then to Gueye. So you see that as the tournament went by, and especially when they were playing the North African teams, Senegal started playing centrally rather than through their wings. And even though they didn't play so much in the midfield against Egypt, they were still pinning Egypt in the defense and pressing and still focusing on the center rather than the wings. And that's the only way you can beat teams like Egypt or Morocco, which tend to have skill in midfield, is to battle them in the midfield. And I think Morocco fucked around and found out. People say, oh, Senegal doesn't play physical. They played very physical yesterday, and that's why they won. What do you think, Afolabi?
Yes, I quite agree with you, and I think it's a big testimony to Pape Thiaw's tactical flexibility, because I was expecting them to play the normal 4-3-3. You know, immediately I saw the lineup and I saw the shape 4-2-2-2. I was somehow surprised. But when I realized that this is the only formation that could stifle the Moroccan midfield and sort of make them distorted, the setup kind of forced Morocco out of their comfort zone and gave them little space to operate. When you are working with this kind of system, your 2 forwards are usually very physical and aggressive, and they lead the press. Then the press is backed up by the 2 attacking midfielders who just go for the fullbacks. So what this formation did for Senegal was to disrupt the build-up of the Moroccan team. Yeah. And it really worked well because they couldn't find spaces to play through because they were very vertical. They couldn't find spaces to play through the Senegalese team. I think it was a very brilliant tactical evolution by the coach of Senegal there. Yeah. And it really worked.
And I think the reason it worked, if you notice, when Senegal plays Central African teams or West African teams, they play the opposite, like what I was talking about. They don't play through the midfield and battle. They play more finesse, sideways passes rather than vertical, and they attack through the wings because the West African, because they don't want to get into a physical battle with those types of teams because it's just not more, it's less efficient. And a lot of the teams, like if they had played in Nigeria, since Nigeria doesn't really control the midfield, Senegal was not going to be too worried about that, and we'll try to go through the wings to beat them. But when they were playing these teams from North Africa, more so Morocco than Egypt, they can be more direct and incisive than if they were playing a West African team. What do you think, Afolabi?
Yes, you're quite spot on there. And the reason is simple, because they looked at Morocco. Morocco kept playing the same way, overload the right side with Brahim Diaz and Ashraf Hakimi. But yesterday, because of the kind of setup they had, Hakimi could not overlap because he didn't have the space because of that box in the midfield.
He didn't even try. He didn't even try
doing it.
You know.
So, because and then the quality of Sadio Mane yesterday was the fact that as a forward player, he kept dropping deep. So the players that were marking him had to follow him to the midfield, and then space would be created. So it distorted all their planning and build-up. That is Morroco, and that was where
he actually created. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that was where they really got Morroco on the ropes yesterday. He kept dropping into pockets of space in deep midfield positions. So his markers had to follow him there.
And it's because of that Gueye was getting so many shots on goal and so many attacks. Because once Mane drops deep, Gueye now goes forward again. But that style of play, where they were being disruptive in the midfield, that's the reason they won this championship, is because this guy, Mane, was a warrior yesterday. What I mean by warrior, he was doing a lot of battling in the midfield. So can you imagine? And that allowed their pivots to actually be more creative. Very, very good masterpiece. What do you think, Mr. Segodi? I have to remember too many names in this world. I always forget somebody's name.
I think yesterday Senegal played very, very well with their 4-2-2-2. Because what you see is they dominated the midfield, and once you dominate midfield against Morocco, you've got half your job done. And also, they solved that Hakimi, Brahim Diaz, and Onari overload. So for what I see from the first minutes of the game is Morocco couldn't play through the middle because most of the chances that Senegal created were the balls that they were on when Morocco was trying to break the lines from building from defense. And then Senegal had like few great chances while Morocco couldn't even create a chance from that. So that tactics really impressed me, because normally you'll see 4-3-3 with Senegal, but yesterday they played through the middle most of their game. So they won the midfield through the physicality. So Morocco was struggling very, very hard yesterday to even
because by caging the midfield, by caging the midfield, even if Morocco has an overload on the right, they're not going to have any supply. And we see now why. I said it before. I feel like Morocco scores collectively. They don't have a true number 9. Someone like an Osimhen or something, that would have made it more difficult for Senegal to play that type of tactic. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right. They don't have a typical number 9.
They rely on Diaz too much for scoring. They rely on
Diaz too much. And this particular game, I just like the fact that the most potent weapon, right-sided overload, was nullified yesterday with that shape. And this is why I feel some of the coaches that we have in Nigeria should be able to think out of the box. I mean, this is a cup final. The guy sat down. I'm sure he had watched the semi-final against Nigeria.
Yeah, what I think it was that. I think you're breaking a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's start Segodi before we move on to the next thing. Yeah.
Orex, now, what I've seen is now Senegal level of coaching has reached a very, very high point. I see that their coaches have learned a lot through the French. Like they went to France very, very early, and then they learned a lot of tactics from there. So now I'm very happy with the Senegalese level of coaching.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for a World Cup match. First match. France. Senegal. The Senegalese derby. Because the Senegalese derby. Because France had players from Senegal. The Senegalese derby. And you know that, like, very quickly, the Senegalese players, their first choice is always Senegalese. All these guys were born in France. Their first choice is Senegal. They go and play for Senegal. It's not that they go to Senegal afterwards when they can't play for France. All right, Afalabi, take us to the let's start EPL.
Yeah, so we're back with